Welcome to the Niners Nation 2018 NFL Mock Draft. We're back for the 6th round, with the draft less than a week away. You can view the full first round results here, the full second round results here, the full third round results here, the full fourth round results here, and the full fifth round results here, which includes an explanation for picks. We're starting the 6th round today, and this will take us through the weekend. We'll get to the 7th round early next week leading up to the draft. The San Francisco 49ers have their own pick no. N. 184 overall. We'll get to the 49ers pick this afternoon, 175. Cleveland Browns, Jeff Holland, Auburn, Mertens Merkin. Not gonna lie, I was really hoping that somehow, someway Sean Dion Hamilton was going to fall to this pick. But it wasn't to be. Thanks to all the holes in the Browns roster though, for giving me ample positions to explore if the guy the first want disappeared. The top of the 6, we are down to just a few guys that still have potential to start in the NFL. The last several picks have been very good in that regard. We're sniffing out the last of the guys with real production or traits. Holland fits into that mix. He's pushed his way into the draft discussion by exploding in production in 2017. And it wasn't just sacks. He was routinely pushing the pocket, and getting into the quarterback's face last season. He's also got ample anchor to sink his hips and control the edge. He's not just a rotational player at the defensive end position. He's got a great motor, he's productive, and he's complete. What's holding him back is his somewhat sloppy body. He's kind of got that, let's call it, farm strength. In that way, he's very much like what Cleveland already has in Ogbah, though I'd argue that Holland has a bit better sense for setting up blockers, and using his hands. Both are guys that win more with muscle than with twitch. By addressing the middle of the defensive line with twitchier players earlier in the draft, I hope that I can slide Holland in, and just manhandle tackles on the outside with a rotation of thickly built maulers, while my twitchier interior players draw double teams, and play a lot of TE stunt games. We seem well stocked now to make life tough on passing downs. The hope for Holland is that he can shed some of the bad weight that he has, because if he were a bit leaner, I think he could challenge Ogbah for snaps and starts down the line. And maybe not too far down the line, 176. Los Angeles Rams, Andre Smith, ILB, North Carolina, AC49er, 177. Houston Texans, Rashawn Gowden, CB, Tennessee, Sacto Solon. The Texans continue the overhaul of its secondary with the selection of Gowden, a 6 feet, 1 inch, 193 pounds physical corner who posted 63 tackles, 3.5 for loss, 1 int, 5 PD, 3 fumble recoveries, and a forced fumble as a junior last year. More quick than fast, 4.61 40, Gowden can come in and compete for early playing time in nickel packages. In fact, Daniel Jeremiah called Gowden a day one starting nickel in the league. I passed on CBs with Houston's first 4 picks because of the depth at the position and, frankly, got the guy the first wanted all along about 80 picks later. LSU's Kevin Toliver II would have been the consolation choice had Gowden been selected, 178. Indianapolis Colts, Tarvarius Moore, FS, Southern Mississippi, Rowing Dave. Yes, the Colts have drafted Jaire Alexander as their outside corner and MJ Stewart as a joker safety, slot corner hybrid, but this is too good of value to pass up, and they go to the well with Moore. Malik Hooker is awesome, and he's recovering from an ACL injury, and has a relatively checkered injury history already in his young career. You can never have too many athletes, Adrian Colbert and anyone, and this guy is icing on the cake for a unit that has to compete with Marcus Mariota, Deshaun Watson and Blake. Never mind about Blake, but you get the idea. I looked really hard at Doel, RB and another athletic edge prospect, but you can't coach legit 4.32 speed, and he's been productive, to boot. Big miss by the combine people. No way he goes this late, and is probably a day 2 pick, 4th round at worst when all is said and done. After this pick, the Colts have picked up 5 big pieces for their defense, all of them productive, and all great athletes. Coupled with Quentin Nelson, DJ Moore and Kyle Lauletta, the Colts have one more pick to put the icing on a very solid draft, 179. New York Jets, Darius Phillips, CB, Western Michigan, Blackout 52. Phillips is on the shorter side at 5'10", so he might be pigeonholed into playing slot only in the NFL, but that's not a problem for the Jets, who desperately need help there. Buster Skrine is listed as the only nickelback on their roster, and he hasn't been great since they signed him. Phillips' size will cause him to fall, but he checks almost every box you want in a corner skill-wise: man coverage, zone coverage, ball skills, speed. Phillips has it all, almost. His run defense is lacking, but at this point in the draft you're not going to get a perfect prospect. He should immediately take Skrine's spot as a starter. 180. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Kevin Tolliver 2, CB, LSU, Bay Area boy. Tolliver will help out a weak secondary, with Minkah Fitzpatrick and Kevin Tolliver coming in as rookies to compete with Brent Grimes and Vernon Hargraves. It would give them some depth at CB and maybe move Fitzpatrick to safety. Tolliver is a taller CB at 6'3", coming out of DB University. It might be a steal to pick him up this late in the draft. He will have to be coached up, but with a veteran like Grimes coming back will help him develop. Will be interesting to see how he pans out, but has good upside. 181. Chicago Bears, Aruna, Tulane. At defensive end, what Aruna lacks in polish, he more than makes up for with potential and athleticism, and that is what you draft for in the 6th round. Aruna will be a project, but should be a valuable rotational player early on with the potential to pay dividends sooner than people expect. Guys with his athletic profile don't grow on trees, and Vic Fangio should find a way to make him useful in various looks. 182. Arizona Cardinals, Willis Tay, Washington, a Sharks fan. The Cardinals have Ricky Seals-Jones, who showed some nice ability for a UDFA last year, but the team definitely needs some help at Tay. This Lee is a solid player overall and one of the better blockers in this year's group of tight ends. 183. Los Angeles Rams, Tyler Conklin, Tay, Central Michigan, AC-4 Niner. 184. San Francisco 49ers, Allen Lazard, WR Iowa State, G. Sheen. Lazard is an aggressive possession receiver with some interesting traits to work with. His 4.55, 17 reps, 38 VJ and 122 BJ at the combine put him in the 99th percentile for a receiver of his size since 2000. Plus, his Liberty Bowl and Senior Bowl standout performances should vault him in an early day 3 consideration. Known for his masterful back shoulder catches, Lazard relies on his sharp awareness and excellent body adjustment to make a name for himself in the Big 12 Conference. His rare blend of size, leaping ability, and deceptive athleticism makes him a matchup nightmare for secondaries. If not for the defensive pass interference he drew, Lazard could have easily padded his receiving stats. Much like Anquan Boldin, he prefers using his frame and weight to lean on his defenders and create separation that way. His feisty demeanor in-game and his tenacity in contested situations will be highly regarded in Shanahan's offense. Something else Shanahan would place a premium on is his run blocking. It's among the best in this draft class, with 71 PFF run block rate in each of his last 3 seasons. Still 22, Lazard could stand to improve his release and refine his route running. Personally, I would much prefer having Lazard as the 5th receiver than Aldrick Robinson. He would provide depth, red zone presence and competition to Bourne. He can get a year or 2 to work on his craft and vie for a bigger role when Garçon's age catches up to him. 185. Oakland Raiders, Tanner Lee, QB, Nebraska, 12-2. Lee should have stayed in Nebraska for another year. However, with Frost being hired as the new HC, Lee decided to move on. He is your typical pocket passer. At 6 feet 4 inches with 10 inches hands, he has the size you want in a QB. 186. Green Bay Packers, Kylie Fitz, Utah, Fred Mercury. Something that I failed to mention in my write-up for Arden Key is that Clay Matthews is entering the last year of his contract. While I don't pretend to have any insight into Green Bay's free agency plans for 2019, I would be surprised if they let Matthews walk, unless he tears an ACL or something like that. So, while Key would upgrade the pass rush and help support the practice of Matthews being moved around the defense, as they've done recently, he is also insurance should Matthews not be resigned. Fitz could be seen as insurance to the insurance, though he comes with a question mark. Fitz has good size and tested very well at the combine. He profiles as an edge rusher, either standing up or with a hand in the dirt. The issue with Fitz is his injury history. He played in 22 games in 4 years in college. You'd have to go back to 2015 to find quality game tape on him. It's not a surprise that he's available so late in the draft, but if he stays healthy there is a decent amount of upside here. Looking at the edge position from a pure succession standpoint, I wouldn't begrudge a Packers fan for asking me, what is this draft actually accomplishing for the pass rush? As it stands right now, Matthews is a free agent in 19. He has serious questions about his temporary disappearance last year, and Fitz has barely seen the field due to injury. Fair enough. But if Fitz, and especially Key, can produce, this Green Bay defense will be downright nasty. 187. Buffalo Bills, Akram Wadley, RB, Iowa, Rardin 49, he's smaller 5'10", 190 but very athletic and elusive. Will complement McCoy and Chris Ivory really well, 188. Cleveland Browns, Jake Wieneke, WR, South Dakota State, Mertens Merkin. Question, at this point, is anybody actually writing all that much about their 7th round selection? Well, as 9R fan, just for you, the answer is yes. Very emphatic, yes. I might write more about Jake Wieneke than I wrote about Baker Mayfield. Why? Because I can. This is the final of the Browns' 9 picks, it's a good one, and you are going to hear all about it. The 2018 WR class, Wieneke's strengths and weaknesses, how he might fit with the Browns' current roster, why that's important for 49ers fans to consider, and so on and so forth. So let's get started. Why I don't like as 9R fan anymore. Chapter 9. The conclusion. Havana Nights. Edition. This year's WR class is filled to overflowing with mid to late round receivers with an awful lot of size. Some of those 6 feet 1 inch and above guys, like DJ Chark and St. Brown, have some speed to go along with it, but most of the rest of these guys don't have a ton of speed. As 49er fans, we're all probably worn down from hearing that Kyle Shanahan likes receivers that can get open, and the question with the vast majority of these receivers, from Tate, to Lazard, to Simi Cobbs, is how exactly do any of these guys get open without speed, and with body types that make change of direction difficult? For a lot of these guys, I just don't know. The idea seems to be that because they are tall, they are red zone targets just by default. As if we could just go with the Tim Tebow jump pass on every red zone possession. It just doesn't work that way. Being tall is a nice asset, but you need some other positive trait to rely on if you are going to find success. A lot of these guys just don't have much. There are a lot of guys with questionable hands, Cobbs, or lack explosion, change of direction skills, or run lazy-looking, rounded routes. Lazard. Wieneke actually has some traits beyond being very tall. His 2016 game against TCU is available on YouTube, and I encourage people to watch it, because you can start to see the skill set in action against top-tier talent. Wieneke has a killer route in his pocket, the fade, runs sharp routes, with better-than-expected sharpness to the top of the routes, has tremendous hands, and plays with urgency. He high points the ball very well, fights through contact, isn't bumped off routes, and catches in traffic. Unlike a lot of these guys, Tate, he actually produced the prolific numbers you'd want to see out of a wide receiver, banking on being a physical mismatch against corners in the NFL. If you can't do that in college, why would that suddenly show in the pros? So how does that fit with what the Browns need? Right now the Browns have Josh Gordon, who we should all hope stays clean, because he might be the best WR in the NFL, and Jarvis Landry, who swears up and down that he's not just a slot receiver. That's nice that Landry says that, but I'm still a little dubious of that. He's an awesome slot receiver, and there's nothing wrong with that. But given the new contract, I would assume he's out to prove he can do more. I do expect to see him play more, maybe much more on the outside next season. Beyond that, the Browns don't have much talent at all. They need a guy to come out of a crowded field to show them the ability to match up with those two. You have to be able to catch a ball when nobody is scheming to take you out of it. I think Wieneke is that guy. He's a cheaper and not as good version of Cooper Kupp. He can take snaps in the slot as a big slot option, and he can take some snaps outside, which I am positive that's the case. He's got deceptive build-up speed to create separation at the top of his well-run routes, and has the body type to brush off some of the bumps he's likely to get in man coverage. And the 49ers should have some interest in a player like that as well. Don't count him out. He's got the same thing that the only other drafted wide receiver in the Shanahan era has had. A ton of production, and the ability, viewable on tape, to get himself uncovered. He can take snaps all over the field, and that's a big positive. Also, like Taylor and Kupp, Wieneke is a blue-collar lunch pail guy that is a gym rat. So now my draft is over. I can close all these tabs. Best of luck to all. Congrats to as 9R fan for reading all of this. 189. New Orleans Saints, Cameron Kelly, DB, San Diego State, Delta Lima. At this point in the draft, we're looking at players who can provide depth. Cameron Kelly was mocked early and often as a 3rd or 4th round selection, with most teams having an eye to moving him to CB in order to take advantage of his ball-hawking skills. In some instances, he was mocked in the 2nd round. His performance at the Combine simply didn't rate for CBs, however, and here we are midway through the 6th round. The Saints like to use a 3-safety system into which Kelly could fit. I'm not sure a move to CB is something Kelly will manage to do in the NFL, so instead, I would keep him in the same position that he played for the most part in college. That is, until he showed he could handle the demands of CB on an NFL level. The Saints system is one that could likely use his skill either way, plugging him in as a depth option. This is a case of Kelly falling, I'm sure, because of a poor combine performance. Combine performance is often overvalued, particularly 40 time. Kelly's sluggish 4.66-second 40-yard dash could be a result of him having poor testing technique, as opposed to poor athleticism. He shaved about a tenth of a second off at the San Diego State Pro Day. And while those timings are often questioned, Kelly thinks he triggered the laser-based clock prematurely at the combine by moving his hand early. He also claims to not be better at football than drills. His production as a ball hawk and his proven ability to handle his business in the run game earns him the chance to prove his doubters wrong with the Saints. 190. Baltimore Ravens, Mike Love, South Florida, Lizard State. The Ravens' D-line, like most of the team, was injury-riddled in 2017. Backup to Brent Urban came in for the injured starter but was also injured, missing 4 games. That the Ravens posted a 1-3 record with significant drops in sacks, TFLs. Urban is an RFA. Love, who had 11 TFLs last year. 191. Los Angeles Chargers, Trey Flowers, Oklahoma State. Brother Girth, we need a safety. He's there. He ran a 4.45. Hopefully we can teach him to tackle. 192. Dallas Cowboys, Al-Rashid Benton, ILB, West Virginia, Big Ismails. 193. Dallas Cowboys, Quint Blanding, Virginia, Big Ismails. 194. Los Angeles Rams, Leon Jacobs, LB, Wisconsin, AC-49er. 195. Los Angeles Rams, Doris Fountain, WR, Northern Iowa, AC-49er.